So welcome to this edition of Midday Mentors. Really delighted to be welcoming Andy Lowe here for us today, who is the author of AI Foundation and Essentials books. So we've invited you, Andy, to give us a little bit of insight into the brand new course that we've got in association with BCS. Give us some insights into AI and some top tips as to how people can get started in that career. Can I possibly hand over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here, why you're writing about AI?
Certainly, thanks for having me, Estelle. It's nice to be here. My name's Andy Lowe. I've been associated with engineering now. I'm an engineer fundamentally for about 25, 30 years. I started as a 16-year-old as an apprentice. And basically that was because my brother was an apprentice as well, so I followed in my brother's footsteps. I also loved computing because my uncle was a director of education in Manchester and he brought a BBC micro home. So I ended up loving computing and doing engineering. After doing my apprenticeship, I went on to do a degree at UMIST, and my apprenticeship was in the nuclear industry. And the thing about the nuclear industry is you have to work behind very thick concrete walls to protect you from radiation. So everything you do on the other side of the wall is pretty much automated. So from the age of 16 onwards, we were always working remotely and working with robots and trying to control them and understand them. After doing my apprenticeship, I went to university, did a degree, and then came back again to the nuclear industry and started working in modelling and simulation. So this is high performance computing, doing simulations of things that we can't measure necessarily, and that's where we start to learn things about learning from experience and artificial intelligence. After working there for about 5 years, I went off to Cambridge and did a PhD, and I looked at weather modelling, so modelling the weather, how can we learn from data in the weather. And then since then, I've been working in engineering consultancy and artificial intelligence. When I say artificial intelligence, that started about 3 or 4 years ago at the ski club at work, where I help out. And one of the gentlemen there, Steve Lawless, the co-author of the book, asked did I know anything about artificial intelligence and could it help him because he runs a training organisation, and that's where it all started.
It's lovely that your brother gave you the inspiration to actually start on your journey. Bit of a family affair there. That's amazing.
So, he was 10 years older than me, so it was very much a you know, he was kind of like a superstar because I was this young kid and looking at this older kid.
Oh, yeah. That's lovely. That's lovely. Yeah. What a great bit of inspiration, Andy. So can you tell us, for the uninitiated, what's AI all about? What is it?
Okay, at the very high level abstract idea, it's about building intelligent entities. And what does that really mean? It means learning from experience. So you'll hear learning from experience throughout all the textbooks and all the other seminars. You'll hear how we've learned from experience, so robots learn from experience or humans learn from experience. So when we think about AI, we think about humans, we think about products, and we think about services. So services is quite easy to understand. You know, we've all got Amazon or Netflix and we get suggestion after suggestion. Essentially, that's artificial intelligence and machine learning. But with products, that's a slightly different thing. And then with products, what we're doing is we're putting a nervous system into that product so that we can understand it and the product can learn from experience. And then we also take great, where our main learning point is from how humans do things. So it's kind of a good idea to understand what human is. What is a human? What is intelligence within a human? And it's usually made up of intelligent quotient and emotional quotient. But if you go to the dictionaries and things like that, you'll hear very bland, almost academic descriptions of it. So it's a quickness of understanding, it's wisdom, collection of information. Another one from Wikipedia would be problem solving, reasoning, self-awareness, creativity. That's a good one. Emotional knowledge, that's making us a little bit more human. But the one that we use in the course is from a psychologist in Encyclopedia Britannica, and it really captures the essence of what artificial intelligence actually is. He says it's learning from experience, it's adaptation, understanding, handling abstract concepts, and manipulating our environment. So what humans do is we actually manipulate our environment, and that's how we produce products and services. But that's really important from artificial intelligence point of view, is that it's humans and machines working together to achieve a goal. And that's where AI is today and where it's going. In order to do that, the EU have realised that this can be really disruptive. So the EU have said that we should think about AI in terms of ethics. So anything that involves AI, where it can be manipulating humans and machines, it must be trustworthy, it must be human-centered, it must be robust. And the guidelines that they produced are the basis of the course. Essentially, it's all about sustainability and doing things ethically. AI today is part of the fourth industrial revolution, and it's being used with other machines, nanotechnologies, etc., things like that, in order to produce a better society.
Andy, you mentioned AI and machine learning, and I think you sort of touched upon some of the differences there. Are you able to go into it a bit more? What really is the difference between AI and machine learning?
Sure, yeah. So when we think about artificial intelligence, we might think of humans, we might think of products and services. And certainly the fourth industrial revolution, this is about reimagining everything, humans plus machines, and multiple humans and multiple machines together. Now in the third industrial revolution, we have the digital revolution, and computers now give us this ability to test things in silico, in simulation environments. And machine learning has gained a tremendous amount of traction. In fact, it started probably in the 1940s with Alan Turing, where we built a mechanical machine in order to break Enigma code. We now have digital computers that can do a vast array of narrow AI focused on specific tasks, and we see this a hell of a lot. The first hello world machine learning will probably be machine learning, so you'll probably go and analyze some text or fit some curves or do something like that. Now, the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning is very subtle. Artificial intelligence is about learning from experience, building intelligent entities. Machine learning is about learning from data. So we can then think that, okay, well, we know that if it's machine learning, it's about learning from data. It's probably going to be done in the third industrial revolution digital environment. And it's worth just the definition of machine learning is the academic definition is boring and it's great for setting you to sleep, but the more layman's definition is the field of machine learning is concerned with the question of how to construct computer programs that automatically improve with experience. So again, learning from experience is the key field here, and they learn from data. And you can see that these are huge industries now built off machine learning. And until recently, it was very focused on narrow AI. But since about year 2000, the neural networks and convolution neural networks did almost a step change in performance. And now we're seeing convolution neural networks that can help products, for example, like robots, learn by themselves how to do a task. So if you go on the internet and search on robotic Rubik's Cube with AI, you can see a robot that teaches itself how to solve the Rubik's Cube just by a vast array of sensors. So that's given engineers who produce products the ability to design products now that learn from experience. So now we're seeing machine learning and AI really taking off together rather than just being about learning from data.
Do you think AI is the silver bullet?
Oh, absolutely not. It's useful, and often AI. So if you listen to the academics will often say that AI is a great tool, but there's usually another way of solving the problem from a particular field, a particular discipline. So often people say that artificial intelligence is this universal subject, and it probably is as universal as mathematics. But mathematicians, engineers, physicists, statisticians all use techniques that are probably better than AI. But AI does have some distinct advantages in terms of, so if you're thinking about learning from the genome, there's just so much information that a human couldn't possibly do that. So we need machines to do it. So yeah, machine learning and artificial intelligence is really important, but it's not a silver bullet. And there are practical reasons why it's not a silver bullet. You know, if you lay 100 kilometers of railway track, AI will not make you lay that track any quicker than it can be laid. So there are physical limitations on what artificial intelligence can actually do. And if you want to test this, go and try your first machine learning project, or pick up one of the multitude of machine learning books or examples on the internet, and you'll see there's a lot of learning. The human has got to do a lot of learning. They've got to teach the artificial intelligence system how to do something, and that's not as easy as it looks. So it's by no means a silver bullet.
Thanks, Andy. There's so much information there, and agreed. Okay, we don't need AI in absolutely every single area of our lives, but as a human race, we do need it. It's there to move forward. We do. So for such a vast subject, can someone like me get started? How does anyone get started on learning AI?
Oh, definitely. It is a broad spectrum of jobs and roles for the future. We mentioned earlier that we have to reimagine literally everything, humans plus machines working together in harmony. And Doherty and Wilson in their book talk about this at length. And one of the things is that we want to remove the heavy lifting from humans so that humans can move on to higher value work. And that's really, really important. So it isn't about removing jobs or eliminating jobs. It's about projecting people into the future, into high value work. In order to do that, you've got to think to yourself, where's the learning from experience? And is AI what I need? So what's your DNA? So if you ask yourself the question, what's your DNA? What gets you excited in the evening and stops you sleeping? What gets you excited when you wake up in the morning? That's your DNA. That's the thing that drives you. Is there some learning from experience, and where the AI can help you in that context, so that you can do more of what your DNA is? So I use simulate, from my example, going back to computers and engineering, I use simulations to learn a lot about how a system's going to work, and then I learn from that, and then I present that results in a human sense to other people, and the computers do all the calculations, they do all the monotonous work for me, the machines do that work. In terms of roles that people might have, computers are not particularly good at anything that's ambiguous, so humans will have to step in that sense. Humans are going to have to manage the goal setting. Humans are going to have to manage the roles that people are going to have to do. They're going to have to make sure that it's doing it ethically. So there are roles not just for the technical people, but there are also roles for the human side of it. You also need intelligent users, intelligent trainers. There's a very wide range of roles associated with artificial intelligence. We can often make the mistake of just thinking it's all about machine learning. You have to be a data scientist or an applied mathematician to do it. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Companies like Rolls-Royce have almost revolutionized their business, and it's disruptive. And their business is now a better business as a result of using learning from experience. They monitor all of their engines around the world from one place in Derby, and they can maintain that engine, send out spare parts, replace them, etc. Assuming they're flying, of course. I don't think COVID's actually helped us. So go back to where do you get started? What's your DNA? What gets you excited in the evening? And what gets you excited when you get up? That's what you want to be doing more of. Is there some learning from experience that can take away the heavy lifting or reduce the amount of time you have to work so that you can concentrate on your DNA?
Would it get me started in AI? Would it get me understanding AI? Where would taking the course or courses get me?
So in the AI course, we talk a little bit about machine learning, because that's a very major part. It's what's driven the euphoria we've got around AI at the moment. But we also talk about the human side of it. So how do you model a human? How do you understand the human? Because at the end of the day, it's the human that we use as our kind of a natural benchmark for learning how machines could possibly learn. So we introduce things like neuro-linguistic programming, and how do you model humans, how do you build rapport with humans, how you've got to interact with stakeholders, etc. And then if you can model the human, maybe we can put it into a machine, things like that. We also talk about the human side of it, the conscious side, the fact that at the moment AI, the fears about AI are usually in that machines become conscious. So we talk a lot about the human side, the emotional side. How do you model a human? How do you build rapport with people? Things like that. And how will those skills be used in looking at an AI system? And a good example of that is, you've got an app on your phone that's a medical doctor. It's probably better that a doctor inputs the information into your app rather than you. But if it was the fact that you were doing it, how would you train that interface to be intuitive so that people could use your medical diagnosis app? So we do talk very much about the human roles, the emotional side of it, as well as the AI side of it, products and services. And we also talk about the machine learning side of it, because most of us that go into AI will use some form of machine learning at some point.
So does that mean that I can actually start implementing AI after I've done this course in the business?
Yeah, I think it gives you the toolkit and understanding of how to set up your team, and that could be that you've got to think about the human side of it, the ethical side of it. At a very high level in the company, you'd have to set up an ethics committee to make sure that what you were doing was good. But it also gives you the language to be able to engage with people and explain that artificial intelligence is about learning from experience. Is there anything that would help you learn from experience? Could we collect data so that you're not doing lots of data collection or something like that? But it's really about how do you set up the team? Can you build rapport with people? Can you understand the ethics? And then do you have the language to engage with people that may be more technically savvy in, for example, things like machine learning? You'll be able to start to construct your project plan, identify where learning from experience is, be able to grade that to understand whether or not the technology is mature enough for you to use it. So we do an exercise based on technology readiness levels where you think you've got a good idea, you found the learning from experience, you then try and list out the simple steps of what would I need in order to set up my AI system. Then you go off and you do a search and see how mature that technology is. So you'd have a very good understanding of how to frame a problem. We also look at who's going to fund it, because AI is kind of quite a high-tech technology. And the great thing about being in the UK is that we can fund through the very early stages of technology right the way through to actual maturity. So yeah, I would say at the end of the course, you do have a very good understanding of how to set up and run an AI project.
Andy, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. What a wealth of experience there is in there. I feel like we could keep on talking about this, but maybe we can have a part 2. And in the meantime, people can look on both the BCS and APMG websites to discover more about the courses. There are self-study options and there are also training options. So go take a look there, discover for yourself. And Andy, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully we'll welcome you back soon. Thanks very much indeed.
I'd love to come back. Thanks very much.